The New Orleans Saints have traded Trevor Penning for what?
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net. And on a second emergency edition of the show today, the New Orleans Saints have traded Trevor Penning to the Los Angeles Chargers. It opens up a massive opportunity for some of the Saints' depth players, most importantly and namely Dillon Radunz. Will break down the opportunity that's ahead of him and look at the offensive line as a whole that's also dealing with some injuries. And we'll kick everything off, though, with a look at Trevor Penning and the trade value that came back for him, because it's a little bit head-scratching. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode. We appreciate you very much for being here with us, whether it's your first time or your next time being here with us this time, making us your first listen and being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Been a little minute since I've seen you and spoken to you. Thank you very much for being here. The Saints, after trading away wide receiver Rashid Shaheed to the Seattle Seahawks earlier on Tuesday before the trade deadline for a 4th and a 5th round selection in this year's NFL draft, the Saints followed up with another trade at the buzzer, sending starting left guard Trevor Penning to the Los Angeles Chargers in return for a 2027 6th round selection. Yes, you heard me right. A 2027 6th round selection for your former first round pick just 4 years ago, as he goes to the end of his rookie contract here. And remember, that wasn't just some normal first round pick. That was a first round pick that the Saints had to send a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 7th round selection to the Philadelphia Eagles in order to be able to acquire for that draft. They acquired that selection along with the another selection in the 1st round that went to selecting wide receiver Chris Olave. And that's the pick that they just traded for a 6th round pick a year from now, knowing that Trevor Penning is going into free agency this offseason. And you might have gotten either, I guess, that same selection or maybe even better selection, depending upon the contract that he would have signed in the offseason. Now, there are a couple of things that are worth noting about that. No compensatory selection, even if awarded, is guaranteed, right? So even if you're in perfect position to get it, or until rewarded is guaranteed. So even if you're in perfect position to get it, if you sign a player that counteracts that formula, you don't get that selection. And there's no guarantee that you'll even qualify for the selection, depending upon other contracts that were doled out and all those other things. So this effectively locks the Saints into getting something in return for Trevor Penning, which is better than the alternative, which would have been nothing in return, or potentially a 7th round pick in return if he would have signed some small 1st round or small 1-year deal somewhere. So I guess in that sense, the Saints maybe come out on top here. But until we see how that selection rolls out, this is going to be a return for New Orleans that is going to be scrutinized, because that is a former 1st round pick that was, I think it's safe to say now, considering what the market value from around the NFL was a flop of a 1st round pick on top of that. And then you're getting that little bit of draft capital back. It's almost like I'd rather you not tip me than tip me $1. You know what I mean? Like if I'm your server at a restaurant, like it's almost like that, where it's like, no, that's okay. I'll take care of it. And so maybe the best way to look at it is that the Saints got anything at all in this situation for a player that probably was not going to be a part of the future for this team. Some of the insiders can tell you we were talking after and during the game, texting during the game for this loss against Los Angeles Rams. And I mentioned that there will be some players that you're seeing on the field right now that won't be back next year. And Trevor Penning was one of those players that I named. And so the idea that he wasn't going to be a part of the long-term future of the New Orleans Saints was not remarkable, was not surprising or anything like that. But the thing that's so head-scratching and surprising, the thing that has kind of created this response that you're seeing from a lot of Saints fans right now is simply the return that they got back. You were trading with a desperate Los Angeles Chargers team, a team that just lost Joe Alt, a team that is also dealing with, or not lost Joe Alt, but is without Joe Alt for right now while he's dealing with injury. There was another injury on the offensive line for them. They have some things to figure out for their future in terms of guard as well. So it felt like for the Chargers that they were getting something that they very much needed in order to keep their prized possession, and Justin Herbert maybe a little bit more clean than he might have been with some of the other replacement level players that were going to be stepping into those offensive line roles. And so I think that that's something to maybe look at and say, well, if the Chargers were in such a desperate situation, why is a 6th round pick a year from now the best that you could do? And I guess maybe the answer to that could simply be, well, it was either a 6th round pick in 2027, and that was the desperation, because otherwise it's nothing. Right. So I think that that's the only thing that you can look at when it comes to it. But I was just surprised by what this return was for New Orleans. I thought that you could get something a little bit better in this scenario. And especially when I heard that it was a future pick, it was like, okay, maybe it would be in a better round, but maybe I'm the one that's off base. But in any case, the Saints needed to make a move. They needed to make more moves. They needed to continue to stockpile some of the draft capital that they were going to be able to, that they have in the future. They've now gone just in the last few hours from having 11 selections over the course of the next 2 drafts to having 14 selections over the course of the next 2 drafts. So that helps. And there could be another compensatory selection on the way in return for Paulson Adebo, depending on how much more Isaac Yiadom does or doesn't see the field defensively throughout the season. So for this moment, that 6th round pick in 2027 might turn out to be a fantastic player, at which case you're going to be able to look back at this one and say, wow, what a magnificent win. But for right now, I completely understand the sort of scrutiny and criticism around what the Saints got in return for a player that they didn't invest, again, just a normal 1st round pick in, but a 1st round pick that they traded and did all this stuff to get. And then you get a 6th round pick in 2027 out of it. It just feels like a little bit of a miss there. But hey, maybe it's just me. But you will see exactly how that draft pick turns out in the matter of a couple of drafts from now, which is going to come along a lot faster than I think any of us want to admit that it is, because we're all getting a little bit older. Coming up next, as I have my existential crisis here, let's talk about what the Saints will do in place of Trevor Penning, because to me, this is a major sign of confidence in Dillon Radunz, and of course, a massive opportunity for Dillon Radunz as well. Let's get to that next as we continue on with this emergency episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends at BILT. We all pay rent, but it's time to start making your rent work for you and getting something out of it. That's where BILT comes in. Right now, BILT is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. When you pay your rent through BILT, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards hundreds of different hotels and airlines. You can even use it for a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and much more. And BILT isn't just about rent, by the way. They also are all about rewarding you from what you're doing around your entire neighborhood. So from your favorite local restaurants to your rent to heading to the gym, everything is earning you some rewards. So turn your rent into rewards today and start earning points through your neighborhood by going to joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. And make sure you use that link so that they know that we sent you. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, where right now new customers are in for a big time treat. Listen, the NBA season is underway, and of course, FanDuel, there's no better place to get in on that action, as they are the official sports betting partners of the NBA. So a great place to get started. You can get into live betting, and you can even turn your live bets into parlays as well for a chance at maximum big time payouts. The New Orleans Saints, after the trade deadline here right now, 5.5 point underdogs. Were originally 4.5 point underdogs. I don't think that line moved because of the trade deadline, though. We'll keep an eye out on it. But 5.5 point underdogs on the road going up against the Carolina Panthers, a place where they have not won 3 of their last 4 games. So 3 of the last 4 times they've gone to Charlotte. So something to consider when it comes to that. So you can get in on that action and the NBA action and much more over at FanDuel today. And new customers can get $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet win. So just head over to FanDuel.com so you can sign up and start playing your game with FanDuel today, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. The New Orleans Saints traded away Trevor Penning, and now a major opportunity is on the horizon for Dillon Radunz, who the Saints signed this offseason. The 2021 second-round selection is a shoo-in to step in for Trevor Penning at left guard. He will be or should be the guy. There's a lot of excitement around Torricelli Simpkins, the undrafted free agent rookie as well, but he needs some more development, needs some more time. This is a real opportunity for the Saints to get an evaluation on a player that they could actually look to bring back next year. It never felt like there was going to be a path for Trevor Penning back here to New Orleans after this season. Dillon Radunz, though, absolutely has that path on a one-year deal right now, but started the first few games for the Saints, and in the majority of those games helped to pave the way for 100-yard rushing performances. The only exception was the Buffalo Bills game. At the time, the Bills were the worst rushing defense in the NFL, maybe second worst rushing defense in the NFL. And so ever since Trevor Penning got back into the starting lineup, he had that 180-plus yard rushing game up against Buffalo, but then despite going up against some pretty favorable matchups in the run game, even after that, the Saints have yet to rush for another 100-yard game as a team. They were doing it a little bit more consistently against good run defenses like the Arizona Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers with Dillon Radunz in the starting lineup. So very intriguing to see if the Saints are able to figure out and find their run game, getting Dillon Radunz plugged back in. One of the big things that Kellen Moore said when I asked him about the issues in the run game just on Monday was that he outlined that there were a couple of different things that are kind of bothering the team when it comes to getting started in the run game, or kind of halting the team rather when it comes to getting started in the run game. And one of the things that he mentioned outright, unsolicited, was blocking. And so assignments, things like that. And so now, a day later, you see Trevor Penning, a guy who was never in any trade rumors, rumored trade talks, anything like that. You see him traded the very next day, and forgive me for connecting 1 and 2 here, but it sure feels like 1 and 2 make 3. I changed the phrase, but I want to make sure I didn't get the number wrong. But it certainly feels like 2 and 2 make 4 here, right? Like that absolutely feels like those are connected thoughts, or a connected thought to a connected move, however it is that you want to look at it. But for New Orleans, they now get an opportunity to get Dillon Radunz in there, a guy that could absolutely have a future with this team. And that is maybe a little bit more the style of what the Saints want on the interior. Remember, Trevor Penning was moving from tackle to guard this year after having started at left tackle, started at right tackle, was now starting at left guard. And so we'll see if the Chargers get what they need from him. But that was a selection that was not long for New Orleans as the Saints continue to purge themselves of previous draft classes. We've seen this since the moment that Kellen Moore took over. We saw certain players not brought back. You look at Marcus Davenport, you look at Peyton Turner, you look at some of these other players that over the course of the past few years, over the course of the past offseason, have not been brought back, did not find their way here, that were selections or free agency signings or whatever from previous regimes. We're now seeing the continuation of that, right, with this Trevor Penning trade. And so now the Saints get that back, and they get a chance to get a look at Dillon Radunz. And so I think this is a major opportunity for Dillon Radunz to be able to stick maybe long-term with a team, or longer term with a team. If nothing else, he could earn another one-year deal here. You get 8 games to get him evaluated. You get 8 games to get your quarterback evaluated in Tyler Shuck as well. And you get 8 games to figure out what Devon Vele can do for you as well, as a more featured option in your offense, and more featured option in your passing game. So despite whatever the return might be, or whatever Ross thinks about the 2027 6th round pick and all those other things, the good news around this move and the other moves that have been made over the course of the past little bit, including the Rashid Shaheed move, is that it's opening up not just draft capital for you, but opening up opportunities to get a look at some of the other players. And look, I thought Trevor Penning performed well in passing games, but in pass protection, but the interior of that offensive line struggled quite a bit last week up against the Rams. And so there's a part of this too that you're probably looking at and going, man, I wonder how much they're wanting to just make sure that they can keep their rookie quarterback from getting hit. You know what I mean? And maybe they feel better with Dillon Radunz in that position than with with Trevor Penning in that position. I'm loving all the positivity in the chat here. You got me rethinking my stance on it. I see somebody say Tim Dunn says that the Chargers got fleeced in this situation. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you. Like, I'm happy. I'm happy that fans are happy about this, because there is a little bit of a deserved nature to all of this for Saints fans that are kind of watching the team now. Here's the effort, right? Here's the effort that everybody was looking for. Here's maybe some of the accountability that people might have been looking for as well. And so when it comes down to it, like, this could be, if nothing else, a positive showing from the Saints to show that they're going to do something, that they're making these moves. And that's what a rebuilding team should be doing, right? Shed yourself of what used to be and then embrace with what's to come. And that's what the Saints are lining themselves up to do. Now it's getting back to the but getting back to 14 selections over the course of the next 2 years, and the potential to have upwards of 8, depending upon what happens with the compensatory selection that they're in line for Paulson and Debo. So we'll continue to break this story down and much more in tomorrow's episode. Make sure you come back for that. I thank you very much, whether you caught us live or you caught us later, for being here with us and for continuing to support the show. I love being able to do emergency news breaking things with you all. So thank you very much for being here, and we'll catch you again here soon on another episode. We thank you very much for making us a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me and the show. If you see me, please say hi. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure that you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing, how you living. Let me know how you momming them. And trust Who Dat Nation, I'll holla at you.